I'll call the meeting to order, please. Agenda item 2.1, adoption of the agenda for the May 22nd, 2018 regular meeting of council. There is a recommendation that the agenda for the May 22nd, 2018 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented. And I should like to suggest one amendment, please. And that is, I'm sorry, the item is I had it written down here, and it is with respect to the Village of Valemount, agenda item 10.4. I did not have a copy of the 2010 bylaw to compare it to see what the changes were, and I thought that I should ask council to agree to defer this until a future meeting, even perhaps when the new CAO is hired. Okay?
Could you bring that up and go in there? Would that be more reasonable?
Well, I just thought I would like to suggest amending the, I don't make motions, but I would like to suggest that we amend that to a future council meeting, because I should like to see the 2010 bylaw to compare what has been changed. Okay? And I don't know how council feels about this, if you want to leave it till then, or if you would make a motion to defer it.
Might I suggest that you just deal with it when you get to it?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. If that's all right with council then.
Okay.
Okay. So adopt the agenda as presented then. Blanchette and Reimer. Any amendment suggestions requested? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Agenda item 3.1, adoption of the minutes of the previous regular meeting of council, and that's the minutes of the April 24, 2018, be adopted as presented. Motion, please. Okay, Torgerson and Salt. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Adoption, agenda item 3.2, adoption of the minutes of the previous special meeting of council, May 1st, 2018, as presented, and it's Torgerson and Blanchette. Are there any errors or omissions? All in favor? Carried. Agenda item number 4, public hearings. Reading of the public hearing statement, and I shall do that. Public hearings are being convened pursuant to the terms of the Local Government Act prior to consideration of each of the following items. Village of Valemount Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 781, 2018, and 2, Village of Valemount Land Use Contract Discharge Bylaw number 784, 2018. At a public hearing, any person present who believes that his or her interest in property may be affected by a matter being considered shall be given an opportunity to be heard on the matter contained in the proposal. However, it is important that all who speak at this meeting restrict their remarks to matters contained in the proposal, and it is my responsibility as chairperson of this meeting to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Those of you who wish to speak concerning the proposal should, at the appropriate time, commence your address to the council and meeting by clearly stating your name. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposal. Members of council may, if they so wish, ask questions of you following your presentation. However, the main function of the council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at a public hearing to debate the merits of a proposal. Everyone who deems his or her interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. At the conclusion of a public hearing, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representation made at the hearing. During the course of a public hearing, people sometimes tend to become enthusiastic or emotional. Regardless of whether you favor or oppose any particular application or argument, please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion. Restraint enables others whose views may or may not coincide with your own to exercise their right to express their views, and enables all views expressed to be heard in as impartial a forum as possible. So, I should now, agenda item 4.1, Village of Valemount zoning amendment bylaw number 781, 2018. I shall open the public hearing. Okay. And we have our planning officer with us.
Okay. The first public hearing this evening is in regards to Ian Woolsey's zoning amendment application for 1363 3rd Ave, legally described as Lot 2, District Block 7356, Caribou Plan PGP 10406, PID 012-705-691. At 1363 3rd Ave is currently zoned residential R1 and is therefore only permitted one single-family dwelling. Mr. Woolsey has applied for a site-specific zoning amendment to allow for a second single-family dwelling on the property. Mr. Woolsey intends to use the additional dwelling as a long-term rental and has extensive experience as a landlord. Both our community and housing committee have highlighted a need for more affordable housing, and this is an opportunity to add to the options available. The proposed second dwelling is an existing building on site, currently being used as a workshop. No additional structure will be added to the property. All necessary permits and inspections will be required prior to an occupancy permit being issued. There will be no short-term vacation rental use permitted on this property. The subject property will be permitted a maximum of one secondary suite on the parcel to limit the total number of dwelling units. Only one accessory building will be permitted on site, and the maximum parcel coverage will remain consistent with residential R1 regulations at 40%. If no major issues arise from this public hearing, staff recommends giving third reading and final adoption of the zoning amendment bylaw number 781. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vincente. Are there any questions, Council? No? Okay, thank you. And this is the time for reading aloud of written submissions received prior to proceedings. Ms. Shepherd?
I received no submissions, thank you, Your Worship.
Okay. The proponent is present. Do you want to make a presentation?
No, Your Worship, I'm here, my name's Ian Woolsey, I'm here to answer any questions the council has.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have any questions of Mr. Woolsey? Obviously, none. Thank you. Are there any submissions and presentations by the public to form part of the minutes? Well, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I would like a motion, please, that this report be received. Reimer and Blanchette. Any discussion on receipt? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Number 2, recommendation that the Village of Valemount zoning amendment bylaw 781, 2018 be given third reading. Okay, Salt and Blanchette. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Number 3, recommendation that the Village of Valemount zoning amendment bylaw 781, 2018 be adopted. Okay, Reimer and Blanchette. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Now we go on to agenda item 4.2, sorry. And I'll open the public hearing and presentation from Ms. Vincente once more.
Thank you. Okay. The second public hearing this evening is in regards to a land use contract discharge request for 885 Cranberry Lake Road, legally described as Lot B, District Block 7354, Plan PGP 18868, PID 010-937-820. So land use contracts were implemented during the 1970s as a land use tool in regions that did not have zoning. After 1979, the BC provincial government decided that there were more effective land use tools and stopped entering into land use contracts. However, the land use contracts that were already in place still hold their power, but this will change soon. As of June 30th, 2022, all municipalities in British Columbia are mandated to have underlying zoning for areas that are currently regulated by land use contracts. And all land use contracts will expire as of June 30th, 2024, and underlying municipal zoning will then apply. 885 Cranberry Lake Road is currently the main entryway for the campground immediately west of the subject property. In 1973, when this property was part of the regional district of Fraser-Fort George, the property owner and the regional district established a land use contract, which states that the subject property can only be used as a campground and/or an associated use. When this property became part of the village of Valemount in 2005, the land use contract was transferred from the regional district to the village of Valemount, so it's now within our council's authority to discharge this land use contract. The subject property was zoned Highway Tourist Commercial C4 at the time it was included into the village of Valemount boundaries. Until the land use contract is discharged, terminated, or expires, the Village of Valemount zoning bylaw and its permitted uses for the property do not apply. The current landowner has submitted a development permit application for the subject property to construct a hotel. Even though hotel use is permitted in the C4 zone and no zoning amendment is required, the land use contract must first be discharged prior to approval of the proposed hotel. Because of the square footage of the proposed hotel and its proximity to Highway 5, the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure must approve the land use contract discharge. They are requiring a traffic impact study to be submitted to them for review and acceptance prior to releasing the land use contract. The traffic impact study has been initiated by the developer and is still ongoing. That's all, thank you.
Does council have any questions? No? Thank you very much. Are there any written submissions, Ms. Shepherd?
There are none, thank you.
There are none, okay. Presentation by proponent, property owner, if present. Okay. And if not present, then there's no opportunity for council to ask any questions. And submissions and presentations by the public to form part of the minutes. Are there any submissions? Hearing none, I'm going to close the hearing. Recommendation 1, a motion please to receive the report. Okay, Torgerson and Blanchette. Is there any discussion on receipt? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Recommendation 2, that land use contract discharge bylaw number 784, 2018 be given third reading. And Salt and Reimer. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Is there anything in the reading file that council wishes to bring forward for discussion or action? Councillor Blanchette.
I have 2 items, Your Worship. I'd like to thank Regional District for their community grants, their community and recreational grants. Yes. They're muchly appreciated. And the second one is next week is Bike to Work and School Week. Northernhealth.ca is the website. It's a very informative website for all sorts of different information. But for the Bike to Work, you can enter to win prizes, one of which is a trip to Portugal. So I would highly recommend we all bike to work next week and enter the draw.
You have a bicycle?
Oh, yes, I have 3.
So you're going to rent 2.
That's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything further that council wishes to bring forward? Yes, Councillor Torgerson.
A couple things, Your Worship, thank you. I'd like to highlight the letter from Mayor Haywood from Clearwater, from the district Clearwater, highlighting their financial burden and the employer health tax. And I would like council support to have staff here correlate the dollars and cents and how it would impact our corporation. And similarly to Langley, write the province requesting that this tax be scrapped.
Yes.
I'd also encourage the Chamber of Commerce, Councillor Reimer, to ensure that its members are aware of this tax being handed down from the Premier and his government. I'd also like to highlight the information session on June 18th regarding the Columbia River Treaty from 6 to 9 p.m. and I encourage everyone to clear their calendars for that event at the community hall.
Yes, I think it's very important.
And mirroring Councillor Blanchette, I would also like to thank the regional district and their community grant funding, as well as the NDIT for the funding support for improvements at our local airport.
Yes, for your information, Council, I did send a note off to the NDIT CEO and thanked him. And with respect, thank you for the, I believe it should be made into a motion because I have my notes here too, to direct the Director of Finance to calculate Valemount's increase and bring that forward to Council for our information. And that we also write a letter to the Premier and I don't know if we want to Finance Minister Carol James, copy her that we are opposed to this.
I would move that.
Okay, moved by Councillor Torgerson and seconded by Councillor Reimer, that a letter be written to Premier Horgan with a copy to the Minister of Finance, Carol James, objecting to the increase in the medical premiums. And that's going to be a burden to our taxpayers. Yes, did you want to add to that, Councillor Reimer?
Not to the motion, but if it's open for discussion.
Yes.
My observation simply is, I think this totally underlines there is no free lunch. All it does is shuffle the deck to somewhere else. And somebody's paying for it, whether directly or indirectly. And it's going to be a burden on everybody, no matter how it's done. And actually, I don't think our system is actually broken. I don't think it was unaffordable. Anybody that couldn't afford to pay for that, there were other ways of dealing with that. And, you know, I think we're blessed in this country for the low health care premium dollars that we actually do pay when we think of what people south of the border are paying for their health care costs, like $700-800 a month. And that's for two people. You might squeeze in a third. And, you know, they've been paying that for a long time and they haven't got any, they've got a lot more challenges in their healthcare system than we've had. So our system wasn't broken, and I don't think it needs to be fixed, certainly not in this one.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, all in favor of writing that letter? Carried. Also, I wanted to point out one of the letters with respect to teaching young people about smoking marijuana and driving vehicles. And I would like to suggest that perhaps that be researched a little more as to how they are going to go about that and recommend that to our school as well. The state of Colorado celebrated their 5th anniversary of legalizing marijuana, and their marijuana smoking fatalities, car fatalities, have doubled. And that's their statistics. So if, and I don't know whether the school is where it should be done or through the RCMP, and I'm open for suggestions from council as to how we can employ that for our young people here too, as an education on driving. And somewhere here it also said that young people smoking marijuana, the number is the highest in Canada. Canada has the highest numbers, and I found that very disturbing. Yes.
It was in the Northern Healthier Northern Communities e-brief.
Yes.
It was pot and driving campaign, and it's Canadian Public Health recognizes that young Canadians have one of the highest rates of cannabis consumption in the world, and many underestimate the risks associated with cannabis-impaired driving. They have developed a pot and driving campaign informed by youth with a key messages to facilitate conversations and help raise awareness. And they say to check out this free campaign and resources. So I think Canada Public Health is addressing it along with Northern Health. I don't know if there's really anything we need to do locally. I'm sure they're working also in conjunction with the RCMP detachments as well in the schools.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Salt. Councillor Blanchette, are you aware of any program here?
No, but I'll mention it at my next meeting on Monday.
Good. Thank you very much. Is there anything further that Council wishes to bring forward from the reading file? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to administrative reports. Agenda item 9.1. Motion, please, to receive the report. Okay, Salt and Torgerson. Is there any discussion under receipt? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Recommendation 2, that Carleena Shepherd, Corporate Services Clerk, be appointed as Chief Elections Officer for the 2018 general election. Local general election. Okay. Torgerson and Salt. Any discussion? I was going to say, you're being prepared. Okay, good. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Recommendation 3, that Danielle Jerome, Grant Writing Clerk, be appointed as Deputy Chief Elections Officer for the 2018 general local election. Motion, please. Okay, Torgerson and Blanchette. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. 9.2, that Adam Davey be removed as the signing authority officer for the Village of Valemount. Salt and Reimer. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. 9.3, April 2018 accounts payable. Recommendation that the April 2018 accounts payable report be received. Reimer and Blanchette. Are there any questions or any comments? Yes, Councillor Salt.
I already addressed any of my questions or concerns to the Director of Finance. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Nothing further? All in favor? Carried. Village of Valemount Municipal Insurance, recommendation that staff be directed to proceed with the municipal insurance RFP, request for proposals. Process as presented in the attached report to Council. Motion, please. Torgerson and Blanchette, and that's open for discussion. Councillor Reimer.
My annual reasons why not to, if you want to pass that along, please.
Do you want to read these out?
If you would like me to.
Yes, please.
So I made a list of items that I think are important. Why best practice is not to follow other municipalities down the road of providing a multi-year contract to an insurance broker. And first and foremost is that insurance is one of the most important details of a sound business and should be reviewed every year to make sure it meets the demands and meets the needs for the next year. And that means for us that our operating policy as a village needs to reflect that importance. Secondly, any contract as proposed in our agenda is not with an insurance company nor a reinsurance company. However, it is the reinsurance companies of the world and the insurance companies that set the rates and have the market capacity to provide coverage for the property and infrastructure that we own and need to insure. The insurance rates which work out to the premium will depend on a number of factors, and this is only a short summary, but they will depend on the loss experience of the reinsurer, the loss experience of the insurer, world events as in natural catastrophes or other, interest or investment income of the insurer and reinsurer. And by the way, interest rates are probably going to go up a little bit, and they have gone up in the last year. So that's giving insurance companies and reinsurance companies a little bit more return on their investment, albeit not much, but it makes a difference. The loss experience of a particular class of business, such as municipalities, and it depends on the broker. So the proposed contract is not an insurance contract for a 3 to 5 year period where rates and premiums are locked in. It is a supply contract with an insurance broker who does not control and never has controlled the bottom line. Therefore, it's not a formula for reducing our premium cost. In our job description, managing insurance is one of the functions of our staff. So we pay for that and cost it into our salaries. And we should never put ourselves into a situation where we are beholden to one supplier for an extended period of time. And I use for an example that if another broker purchased our local insurance agency and had the markets to provide us with a competitive quote, we would not be able to support local because we signed a supply contract for 3 to 4 years. Yet we want the local agency to pay property taxes, support community events, as well as providing employment for local residents, and that simply isn't fair. Ultimately, what is insurance? What are we buying? It's not a commodity. It's not an asset. Insurance is a promise. Promise to deliver money on the unfortunate happening of a particular incident. And the quicker that the money is delivered, the quicker we can rebuild or repair. And that's really where the savings come in. We can pinch pennies on premiums, but if it costs dollars because we can't get the money in a timely way, it's not a saving. It's not what you pay up front. It's what you pay after the loss that tells you whether you saved money on insurance. And it's always worked that way. I digress for a minute, and I read it this afternoon again. I don't know whether you ever saw the advertisement about Allstate, and this is not to say anything bad about Allstate, but there used to be that advertisement with the hands like this, and you're in good hands with Allstate, and we used to open our hands like this, and that's about how good a hands you were in. Since 2005, Allstate has changed their image, and they deny that. It's all in black and white, so I'm not making any derogatory remarks in public. But that used to be the image. But I think that's the message, is it's not what you pay up front. It's what you get after the service. And ask any auto body shop, for example, any glass shop, who they enjoy doing business with. It's from insurance companies that write the checks and have them there within a few weeks after they do the job, not the insurance companies that wait 3 or 4 months to pay their bills. So it's what I'm looking for when I do business with an insurance company. Who do I trust to deliver the check when my client needs it? Because it's my reputation that's on the line, and I don't want to have a bad reputation. So if we enter into a supply contract with a broker, yes, we would be putting a ceiling on the increase that they could charge, but if the premium were to increase more than 10%, we would almost guarantee ourselves an increase in premium, that should be every year, for the term of the contract. I'm not saying they would, but it's written in, it's an easy out. As long as they're not more than 10% increase, they get to keep the supply contract. And personally, my unbiased view, because there's no conflict here, is to use Municipal Insurance Association. They only started writing property coverage about 3 years ago, so it wasn't always available from them. And yes, the premiums are a bit higher perhaps, but they are predictable. Company is sound. They have one mandate, municipal insurance. They have a reputation to protect, and we can be assured the money will be there in a timely way when we need it. And that's good policy on our part, and that's good sound practice. It's not always a bottom line. Not saying we have to follow that, I'm just throwing that out there. It's not always a bottom line, it's really who's providing it. So I reference one quick example, might not be construed as definitive in all aspects, but steel from China has been cheaper. But how much did it cost when all the steel had to be replaced because it was inherently flawed? The principle of trying to save pennies up front only did up paying dollars in the end. So an RFP for 1 year and no option to renew is the only sound policy to follow when it comes to buying insurance. And that's my presentation. Against.
Thank you, Councillor Reimer. Are there any comments or questions? It is my understanding too that the Municipal Insurance Association is strictly for municipalities in this province. So, any comments from council? What is council's wish? No questions? Yes, Councillor Salt?
I'm wondering if we have enough time to perhaps defer this back to staff, just to have a little historical history of the premiums that we have ended up paying over the last several years, perhaps during this term, or if we have the option of finding out from any of the bidders what their fee would be for the 1 year term versus a multi-year term.
Yes.
I think to the second part of the question, the only way we're going to get that is if we go to an RFP. The first question for getting some historical data, I would defer to Ms. B.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a deadline that we have to get something done.
August 1st is the renewal date.
Okay. So.
It says the current policy expires July 31st.
Okay.
Okay. So there is time, yes.
If it were to be a multi-year policy, is there not the ability to withdraw? You're not locked in for the full term, are you? Are you not able to withdraw from a policy?
Councillor Reimer will know, yes.
Okay. So just to clarify, there is no multi-year policy. Policies are only written for 1 year.
For 1 year.
Okay? So our policies are always from year to year. So if it expires July 31st, our renewal is July 31st, and the insurance policy ends July 31st, 2019. What we are being asked to do is to provide the current broker without having to resubmit an RFP and having the broker compete for the business. We're being asked to give that broker a 3 or 4 year contract with us, not for the policy, for the brokerage.
So I understand, yes, policies generally are for a 1 year term. So if we're asking for an RFP for a 3 or 5 year contract with the broker, would we still not have the ability to review the premiums every year before actually signing a renewal?
Well, generally, there would...
Personally, with my own personal insurance, I am given the ability to renew the premiums presented to me every year and to either renew or not renew with that company and go elsewhere. So I know that's a personal insurance. I'm just wondering, is there not that same option for commercial, residential, municipal insurance?
Councillor Reimer.
So just to answer that, generally what I would understand is that a contract like that would be set up in a way that if the broker, as long as the broker was within 10% of the previous year's premium, that they would be able to retain the business without having to go back to market or without having us be able to terminate his supply contract.
Any further questions, Councillor Torgerson?
So why not just put a clause into the contract that says that we'll review the premiums, and if we're not happy with it, then we'll just terminate the contract?
Is that good business practice?
You keep that brokerage on there, finding you the best possible cost and the best possible insurance for that dollar.
Councillor Blanchette, do you have any questions or comments? Any further, Councillor Reimer, to respond to Councillor Torgerson?
If we're going to do that anyway, we might as well do the RFP because we won't have the opportunity to know if we have a locked-in contract.
Okay. If council wishes to defer this, to bring back, for the staff, to bring back more information, or it's up to council. Yes, Councillor.
More information isn't going to hurt, right?
But is it, of what value does it have at this point to you personally? What questions do you have, Councillor? Do you have any questions at this time?
Not that I can think of. Sorry.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Salt.
For me, I think I just would be curious to see, because we have gone through this process as per recommendations and guidance from Councillor Reimer in the past. I just would be curious now to see, have those premiums, because we've gone through this RFP process for the last several years, 3 years. I'm curious to see how the premiums have changed in relation to the amount of staff time that's gone into the whole RFP process every year. It just would be interesting to see. Is it really warranting the time?
Yes, okay. Well, with respect to personal insurance, as you commented, mine is every year, period. I do not sign any contract or any agreement to go from a 1 year to, or from 2 years to 3 years to 4 years, never. And I always do get quotes from several. So I think that's prudent. It's a prudent way to spend taxpayers' money. But if council wishes to have a report brought back on premium rates, as well as, what was the other question that you had, Councillor?
Whether or not we could fit a clause into said contract that we would terminate should we not be satisfied with any particular increase.
But then we still have to do research as to what other insurance companies would charge, what their premiums would be.
And as Councillor Reimer pointed out, that would not give us an opportunity time-wise.
Yes.
So I'm satisfied with that.
Okay. So what is council's wish now then?
You're calling the question?
I'm asking what council's wish is. Do you want to defer this for further information, or do you want to vote on this now? Yes, Councillor.
If it's council's wish to defeat the motion on the floor and come up with another motion to entertain, I'd be okay with that.
Okay. Okay, so I'll call the question then. All in favor of the resolution as written here? Opposed?
talking about that council approved staff to proceed with municipal
Yes.
insurance RFP as presented?
Yes.
Just to make sure
Yes.
we know,
Okay.
understand.
So opposed, and it's defeated. I'll take another motion then. Councillor Torgerson, do you want to make it, or Councillor Reimer?
I was hoping Councillor Salt would like to
Or Councillor Salt, yes.
come up with a suitable motion that more,
Well,
a history be brought forth to
sorry,
the council.
I'm confused because I really didn't understand who all was voting in favor or opposed to the resolution on the
There
floor.
were 3 opposed.
I didn't see everyone's hands up, sorry.
Okay, I did.
Okay.
3 opposed, yeah.
Okay, so, well, then they defeat my request, do they not? That they're
No.
opposed to the,
It was to the motion or the resolution as written here.
right, so would it not be that someone that opposed it come up with the alternate resolution?
Okay. Okay. Which councillor, yes, Councillor Torgerson.
Move that a history of premiums be brought forth in a report to council so that it can be, and to attach to which insurance company broker provided that service on that premium. Is that okay with you, Councillor Salt?
Sure.
Okay. Could I have a seconder to that, please? Or is there an amendment suggested? What's council's wish? Could I-
second.
Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Torgerson. You've got that written down? Yes, she
summary.
does. Okay, and seconded by Councillor Reimer that this be referred to staff to bring back further information as requested. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. 9.5, letter of support for Monashee Communications. The letter of support be provided to Monashee Communications regarding their funding application to roll out an infrastructure expansion plan. Motion, please, Torgerson and Reimer. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. And agenda 9.6, emergency planning open house, that this report be received. Salt and Blanchette. Any discussion under receipt? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Recommendation 2, that Mr. Peters' offer of producing 6 emergency information vignettes to be aired on VCTV be endorsed by council. Motion, please, Reimer and Torgerson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. 9.7, Main Street closure and land purchase. 1, that this report be received. Motion, please. Okay, Blanchette and Torgerson. Discussion under receipt. Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. The applicant be directed to complete an appraisal for the subject property. And that's Salt and Blanchette. Any discussion? Questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. 3, that the applicant be responsible for paying the appraisal fees at cost. And that's Torgerson and Reimer. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Agenda item 9.8, development permit 01-18-885 Cranberry Lake Road. Recommendation, the staff be authorized to prepare draft development permit 01-18 with a variance to support the development of commercial lodging to include a retail space at 885 Cranberry Lake Road, legally described as Lot B, District Lot 7354, Caribou District Plan 18868. This development permit proposes to vary sections of Village of Valemount zoning bylaw number 610, 2007. Section 15, 2.6, to increase the permitted maximum floor area of a retail store from 200 square meters to approximately 203 square meters. Section 15.3.3, to increase the permitted maximum height of a principal building from 12 meters to 13.6 meters, and notify adjacent property owners of council's intent to consider final approval of the development permit with a variance. Motion, please. Salt and Torgerson. Okay, any discussion or questions? Yes, Councillor Salt.
I just wanted to bring up the comments by the fire department about sprinkler systems, being that it's going to be a 3-story and in excess of the height allowed. Do we know if that is part of the plan, and is that required by the building code?
I believe, Mr. Simmons, you could probably answer that.
Your Worship, my discussion with the building inspector, yes, it has to be sprinkled, and then they also put in a vertical riser for water to allow the fire department to come out below. We've had a fair number of discussions with the fire department about access and egress for fire and emergency vehicles.
Thank you. I know that has been a concern of the fire department in the past of any potential developments in excess of 2 stories.
I don't think they could get the final permits until all of that was satisfied, could they?
As far as I understand.
Yes, okay. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Development variance permit 01-18, 1133 14th Avenue. Recommendation 1, that council gives initial approval to draft development variance permit 0118 for the property legally described as Lot 38, District Lot 7355, Caribou District Plan 26762, to vary Village of Valemount zoning bylaw number 610, 2007, section 6.3.8, maximum height of accessory building, and section 6.3.11, minimum setback of accessory buildings from rear parcel line to permit an accessory building height of 6.1 meters from 3.5 meters and a rear setback of 1.2 meters from 3 meters. And second, that council directs staff to notify the public of council's intention to consider final approval of development variance permit 01-18 at the regular council meeting of June 12, 2018. Sorry. Okay, motion please, Blanchette and Torgerson. Any questions or discussion? Here, yes, Councillor Reimer.
I have no problem with the setback. I have a big problem with the height.
Okay.
It's in a residential area. Conceivably backing onto other residential with a height like that.
Does it back onto the residential?
I would defer to
Yes, Ms. Vincente.
So the property behind it is zoned residential, it's currently vacant, so it's unknown, so it's south of 14th Avenue. It's a big vacant lot, so it's zoned for residential.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Councillor Salt.
I'm just concerned, council in the past has set precedents by allowing other variances in height to this extent. So I don't know how we could not approve this when we've approved past applications.
Yes, Councillor Reimer.
I understand we did allow for a height, but I don't believe it was 6.1 meters, which is substantially close to 20 feet. I believe we had a restriction on the one on 8th Place. It was nowhere, it wasn't 20 feet.
Councillor Torgerson.
I believe there was a variance passed probably 2 administrations ago for a property on 5th Avenue that was peaking out between 19 and 22 feet. I'm not exactly familiar with that exact number, but it's in that neighborhood. And it was termed as a workshop as well.
Okay, where on 5th Avenue?
Kitty corner from the Caribou Grill.
Okay. Yes, Councillor.
That subject property was also at the time zoned commercial, rezoned commercial.
Yes, Councillor.
With residential to the south.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. What is council's wish? Are you ready for the question? Okay, all in favor? And opposed? Okay, do you want your opposition recorded?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, so that passes. Agenda item 10.1, Village of Valemount zoning amendment bylaw number 779, 2018. Recommendation, 1, that the Village of Valemount zoning amendment bylaw number 779, 2018 be given first reading. Motion please, Blanchette and Torgerson. Any discussion on first reading? All in favor? Carried. Second, that the Village of Valemount zoning amendment bylaw number 779, 2018 be given second reading. Torgerson and Reimer. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Carried. 3, that the Village of Valemount zoning amendment bylaw number 779, 2018 be referred to an upcoming public hearing. Blanchette and Torgerson. Okay, all in favor? Carried.
Point of order.
Oh, sorry.
Did we go back and do number 2 of 9.9?
Oh, it was an and. I read the and.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. I'm sure I did because I've got a check mark beside it. Okay. 10.2, Village of Valemount general elections and voting bylaw number 785, 2018. Recommendation that the Village of Valemount general elections and voting bylaw number 785, 2018 be introduced and given first reading. Salt and Torgerson. All in favor? Carried. Second, that Village of Valemount general elections and voting bylaw number 785, 2018 be given second and third readings. Reimer and Blanchette. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. 10.3, Village of Valemount Council Procedures Amendment Bylaw number 786, 2018. Number 1, that the Village of Valemount Council Procedures Amendment Bylaw number 786, 2018 be introduced and given first reading. Okay, Salt and Torgerson. All in favor? Carried. 2, that the Village of Valemount Council Procedures Amendment Bylaw number 786, 2018 be given second reading. And that's Reimer and Blanchette. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. 3, that council procedures bylaw number 786, 2018 be referred to an upcoming public hearing to be held at the regular council meeting of June 12, 2018. Blanchette and Salt. All in favor? Carried. And we have agenda item 10.4, Village of Valemount Officers and Employees Bylaw number 788, 2018. And this is the one about which I wanted further information. Okay.
Your Worship,
Yes.
would it be reasonable to introduce the first resolution and open it for debate?
All right, I did want to amend the agenda, but we're on to this, so all right. For discussion, recommendation that the Village of Valemount Officers and Employees Bylaw number 788, 2018 be introduced and given first reading. Blanchette and Salt. And open for discussion now. I want to just say that I was out of town at meetings. I got back late Friday. It was a long weekend. I had teleconference calls today, and I didn't find the one, the 2010 one, to compare and to see what the changes were. And I don't feel that council and or I can make a sound, informed decision if we don't have all of the information in front of us. So, yes, Councillor Reimer.
I'll make a motion to defer this until we've had a chance to review the last.
Okay. So moved by Councillor Reimer and seconded by Councillor Blanchette that this be deferred until council has an opportunity to review the 2010 Officers and Employees Bylaw and to see what the changes are, what changes are proposed for council's consideration. Okay? And any comments? No? Okay. And Councillor Torgerson, you're all right with that too? Okay. So if we defer this, we'll have to take a vote on. It's if we table it that we don't require a vote on the recommendation. but to defer it,
You got a motion to defer
Yeah.
and then a vote on the original motion,
yeah, okay,
or defeat the original motion
yeah.
and then a motion to defer. That way it's in here.
Okay, yeah. It's usually if there's a tabling motion that
Yeah,
everything is just...
everything is tabled.
Okay, all right. So on the original motion, please,
It's on the table.
to give first reading.
Your worship, if
Yes.
I may, I just put some thought into this. We could keep it at first reading
Yeah, we could.
and just request staff to bring back more information rather than defer first reading.
Yeah, we can still do amendments to second reading.
Okay.
Certainly.
Okay. I was also of the opinion that it might be prudent and wise to await the coming of a new chief administrative officer to oversee it as well, instead of putting this in place before a new administrator arrives. Yes?
Your worship, this is part of the process the council and the previous administrator started.
Okay.
And there are very few steps left to complete what I think it was in November of 2017. We
Yeah.
went through a very major assessment of the village and a number of its issues and presentations. And this is one of the few things left to finish up. And so I don't have a problem with it,
Yeah.
looking at the comparisons, but I guess I'd suggest this is something that should be perhaps finished up and rather than left in limbo for somebody that doesn't know what's going on, but it's up to council.
Yes, it is council's decision. Okay. So, all right, I'll take, I have some reservations, but I'll save them for another time. At this point, then, I'll just, I'll take a vote, rather, on deferment.
Sorry, Your Worship.
Yes.
There's a motion on the floor for first reading.
Okay, so all in favor of first reading? Okay, opposed? Okay. And you want your vote registered? Okay,
Your worship?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead, call the question if you wish.
okay. Well, I'll take vote now on deferment. There was a motion to defer. Okay, all in favor of deferment? I really,
We're deferring it.
yeah,
Okay, the first motion was carried,
yes,
right? And now a request to staff to come back with some more information and comparisons.
okay, I would like to have that in a motion, in a resolution, please. I would like that in a resolution, that it be deferred and that staff come back with further information. I would like that in a motion.
If you call the question to the motion on the floor, I will make the motion
Okay.
that more, the 2010 bylaw be brought forward for comparison by council prior to second.
Okay. This could have all been done very quickly if we had just tabled things to the next meeting. However, we'll take another motion, please, to defer and bring back a report. Yes. I would like to see the 2010 bylaw so that I can make my own comparisons. Okay? Thank you. Okay, so seconded and all in favor of that deferment. Carried. Council reports, 11.1. We'll start with Councillor Blanchette.
On the 11th, we had an elder care meeting, and we are setting up to have a health fair this fall. And we want to invite all those interested, including our housing committee, seniors, everybody that is interested in getting older, which is all of us. On the 16th, we had a Canoe Valley Rec Center meeting, and on the 17th, I attended a housing meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Reimer.
Speak for yourself, Councillor. I'm not getting older. My kids are.
I said that too.
So I do have this on paper, and my report is a little bit lengthy. I don't know how much of it you want me to read. Or do you want me to read the whole thing?
It's up to you. You would
Highlights.
read it, go right ahead.
Sorry?
Just the highlights.
The highlights.
Or the highlights, sure.
Well, it's kind of hard to do. All right. Tuesday, May 1st, special council meeting, and then followed by dinner with School District Board 57, attended the school board meeting, and had the privilege of welcoming the school trustees, along with the superintendent and MLA Shirley Bond and her husband to Valemount. Very informative meeting, and I was impressed with the level of dedication that each trustee expressed in providing our young people with quality education and life skills opportunities in our schools. The trustees certainly do a lot of work behind the scenes in their monthly meetings. Thursday, May 3rd, Ministry of Transportation information meeting here. And then May 7th to the 10th, NCLGA meetings in Fort Nelson. Theme this year was A Road Ahead. Started the convention off with a session on rural emergency planning, specifically as it worked itself out in last year's forest fires, as people worked through situations which no one could have planned for. And this led into a session of sharing what a 4-year strategic plan would look like in our rural areas. Tuesday was a choice of tours, so I won't bore you with that. They were very informative, all of them, no matter which one you chose. I got to throw this in. The last stop on the tour that I did, which was dubbed agricultural tour, but it was really an economic opportunity tour of the area. Last stop was a literal going to the dogs. We saw the kennels and were amazed at the discipline of raising dogs, primarily for the family's own business of dog sled racing. If you get a chance, Google Streeper Kennels. If you've never seen 150 dogs in the same place, totally quiet, no bark, except on command. Anyway, it's amazing. And the Streeper Kennels races those dogs. They primarily raise them for their own racing events. And they have trophies coming out of their ears. So, Wednesday was an informative session on asset management, where we worked through about 40 resolutions, and all except one of the resolutions was passed. After we did the asset management session. Our own resolution that we submitted was passed with respect to consistency in funding by the province of Highway Rescue Services. And I want to highlight one of the resolutions that on the surface should not have taken the time it did. But I want to mention it because it underscores something that I personally seen as important. It had to do with the sediment and obstruction removal work in stream beds that we know could be problematic during spring runoff, and the importance of provincial government working with local governments to mitigate and minimize the flooding of certain stream beds. This whole idea of being more proactive about preventing problems, including at the first session that we had, working with local contractors during a forest fire situation. We've become too reactive and we plan from the past instead of working to anticipate problems before they occur. And I think there's a growing desire by others to be able to deal more locally with issues before they become expensive problems to the province. And I don't know whether some of that could have been done to prevent any flooding from this year, but I see a lot of merit in local governments, regional governments, identifying issues and doing something without waiting for the province to deal with these, getting the initiative and getting it done. To summarize the rest of the business, on the Wednesday as well as the Thursday, there was a session of legalized marijuana, which explored some local legislative ideas. Affordable housing, which unfortunately, why, did you want me to elaborate on that? We never, well, we did talk about the odor. There was affordable housing on Thursday, which unfortunately had some interesting information but couldn't be completed because the ministry staff was trying to present electronically, but there were too many technical problems. I'm sure that'll never happen here. The last session that I took in on Thursday was on opportunities related to economic development in communities that are quote-unquote smart communities. And I'm certainly thankful that we've expressed support this evening for Monashee Communications in their application for funding to roll out an infrastructure expansion plan. And it's certainly an important cog in the wheel of rural development, where we can offer big city communication in a small town setting. And then finally, I just reviewed my notes from 2 years ago when I presented my report on Dawson Creek and CLGA, and noted that we had a panel on boom and bust growing pains. And I quote, related to how we as council can be better and come out of boom and bust growing pain. During boom times or good times, manage to make things good for after the bust. In other words, we don't spend like crazy just because times are good. We balance the idea that times may not be as good, and so when that happens, we're not in a situation where we need to cut services or increase taxes. And that we need to understand our own situation and find the sweet spot, that we are not a job-creating business as a village, so that we stay nimble, that people are our customers and that we treat them like customers, that we try not to be like government, because if people leave our office confused, overwhelmed, then we haven't done our job, and keep it simple. And we all face the same issues in some way or other as other communities, and the more that we can learn and draw on the resources of others and the mistakes of others, so we don't make them, the positive things from others tweak to our situation, will be better. So Fort Nelson is a prime example of the bust. And they've gone from a population of 6,800 with at one time having an anticipation and some infrastructure planning of perhaps 10 to 15,000. They're down to 3,500. The banks own a lot of property there, and the businesses that are still there, for some, it is bare survival. However, they have not had to raise their property taxes for, and could not justify that for at least 2 years, so they've been able to manage 2 years without raising. And next year, they do need to start cutting some services to balance the budget. Wise person once said, smart thing is to prepare for the unexpected. I pray on the road ahead that we will have the wisdom to plan for the sky, but stick solidly to the ground. That's my report.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Salt?
I'll try and keep brief. I also on May 1st attended the special council meeting and the meeting with the school district trustees. On Wednesday, May 2nd, I had a direct heat use committee meeting. On May 3rd, the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure meeting. And then while attending NCLJ, I provided a point form bullet report that Mayor Townsend usually likes point form. I did expand a little bit on a few of the items. Like Councillor Reimer had mentioned about the rural round table being, the focus was on the recent wildfire events from last year. What was very enlightening was how local governments were handling the situations and how shocking some of the slow responses of the provincial government was with some of those. I was quite shocked with that. I attended the very enlightening and interesting Alaska Highway Experience tour, so that was very interesting, and it was part of our entertainment at the reception. Our tour guide on that day was the gentleman from the reception night entertainment, so it was very interesting. The history that we saw, some of the sites were just amazing. Wednesday, the business sessions, very entertaining, and like Councillor Reimer said, some items that you didn't think were going to be discussed and debated for so long were surprising, and others that you thought would have been discussed and debated more weren't, so it was very interesting. And yes, our resolution coming to the floor and going forward was very good. I attended, one of the theories too, Councillor Reimer and I did is, like we oftentimes do at UBCM, is divide and conquer, trying to cover all the different, or as many different sessions as we possibly can. So I had attended local government communications, the small town PR playbook, and that was learning about summaries, case studies, and tools that were included in the small town PR playbook, and it was written and designed by small town, local government, and First Nation community PR professionals from all across BC. And the demand for increased communications, engagement, and transparency has only increased in our small communities. And 85% of small communities, and this is no surprise because we don't have the ability, small communities, to have communication staff whatsoever, yet our staff are responding with innovative new ways to engage with the public. It was recommended that staff reports to council should possibly also include a communications implication as well, as to how will this, what implications will we have to communicate this to the public. And the Northern Development Initiative Trust were the ones that spearheaded this, and they have a free download of the Small Town PR Playbook available on their website. Also Wednesday was the MIA and MFA updates. Annual General Meeting Sessions 2 and 3, Northern Development Update, and then I attended a local government legal question and answer from dysfunctional councils to election rules and contract negotiations. I was somewhat disappointed in the session. Certainly wasn't as well informed as our lawyer from Don Lidstone, so unfortunately it was good, but not as good as I was anticipating. Also, Thursday, May 10th, was sitting with Councillor Reimer at the Connecting the Dots in Affordable Housing, and it was truly a letdown that on such an important topic as this, that there weren't actually bodies on the ground there in Fort Nelson to discuss this, and that unfortunately technology failed us and we weren't able to hear and have the full presentation, so that was unfortunate. I did attend a very interesting session, Healthy Community Development, and that was supporting local governments to address substance use in your communities. It was an absolutely wonderful presentation, and they indicated they wanted our full attention during the presentation and that they would have copies of the complete presentation forwarded to all attendees, so I'm still waiting to see that. I haven't seen anything. I don't know if anyone else on council has. And then I also attended a session on emergency management, How Prepared Are You?, where we heard from local government emergency management professionals how they managed through some of the most challenging emergency situations in BC history and how they handled issues and situations that no one could have planned for. They indicated that first responders and firefighters from outside your community have no idea of your area and that they need to take advantage of local knowledge and listen to local people who know when the wind blows and what direction. They said that was a big problem that contributed to some of the issues last year, is the volunteers coming in from other areas didn't have a clue and weren't listening to the locals that had that knowledge. They also indicated that it wasn't necessary for the provincial government to keep all roads closed for so long. They said it was indicated to get people back into their homes sooner rather than later and not to keep them out for weeks unless absolutely necessary. They said because of such long closures, there was far more looting and robbery and break-ins than there could have and needed to be than necessary. And that is my report from NCLJ, and I'm here tonight.
Well, what about CBRAC last week? Did you not?
Unfortunately, once I got back to work, I was so very busy, I was unable to attend that via teleconference.
Oh, okay. Because they only have 3 meetings a year. CBRAC. Okay. Councillor Torgerson?
Your Worship, I'd first like to start off by thanking the Valemount Fire and Rescue Department for the role they played in a spring burn of tall grass within our boundaries along the CNR line. And also a thanks to the private property owner on the south side that provided access. I think an ounce of prevention goes a long ways. Particularly that week, there was several rail crews in town with spark creating equipment. On the 25th, I attended a VARDA board meeting. The 27th, I attended a VARDA mountain bike park planning subcommittee meeting as an observer. Immediately followed that by a special meeting of the VARDA board to move their requests for proposals, responses forward for more trail construction in the mountain bike park, phase 4. May 1 began with a meeting with MLA Bond, followed by a meeting with Tourism Valemount. Immediately following that, a special council meeting to adopt 4th reading of the budget. Joined you all with a sit down with our trustees from the school district, and then later I joined Councillor Reimer in attending their board meeting. Really impressive how much dedication they put in. May 3rd, I attended a sit down with the regional management, the Ministry of Transportation. May 7th, I had a community force meeting, and it's always a privilege to engage in great discussion with the members of that board. At 1:55 on May 9th, my cell phone sounded a really obnoxious loud alarm and displayed a mock emergency alert. And it certainly got my attention. So, hoping never to hear that sound again. On May 12th, I attended the emergency planning open house. Huge thanks to staff, volunteers, and outside agencies for hosting. I did spend a fair bit of time at the community force table discussing mapping of potential high-risk wildfire areas with President Jackman and members of the public. So, the community force staff are engaged with the BC Wildfire Service, the regional district, and village staff here to help mitigate that risk in wildfire by completing a landscape fire break on both provincial crown and private properties, well beyond our 2-kilometer radial community fire smart plan. And then finally on May 12th, I attended another board meeting, VARDA.
Thank you, Councillor Torgerson. I was going to ask you and Councillor Reimer about any progress with respect to Valemount Community Forest planning a fire break, or whatever it's called, around the village. Either one of you, yeah.
So they've identified some high-risk areas on Crown and just on Crown land for right now. Staff at that level have done a vegetative analysis via mapping of risk 5 of pine, and they are engaged with both the Wildfire Service and the Regional District Bylaw Services to discuss potential mitigation on private property. So the community forest can't just go on somebody's private property and just log it out.
No.
But they can if asked by the regional district through their bylaw enforcement. So yeah, they've identified a ton of Crown land, and again, working with the Wildfire Service, particularly the Wildfire Protection Officer here in town, Ray McLash, to ground truth that risk, and again, working with regional district right from south of Jackman Flats Provincial Park and right through to Canoe River.
Yes, okay. So is there anything that the village can do in support of their process?
Not at this time.
Not at this time? Okay, thank you very much for answering that. And I just wanted to, the reason I sort of chuckled here when Councillor Reimer talked about the session at NCLGA with respect to cannabis is that there was, and I'm not going to say what municipality this councillor represented, did go up to the microphone and ask on behalf of their residents if there would be grants available to start cannabis farms. Grants from any form of government or anybody else to start a cannabis farm. It raised quite a chuckle throughout the conference. Anyway, so for my report, I attended the same meetings with Minister Bond, with our MLA, former Minister Bond, on May 1st, and then two with the dinner with the school district, and Moti on May 3rd, and I'm not going to go into any details with respect to NCLGA. Councillors Reimer and Salt covered that very, very well. It was very interesting to meet with the mayor of Fort Nelson and Dawson Creek and other places who are also very much distressed over the Kinder Morgan delays that the province of British Columbia is spending millions of taxpayers' dollars fighting, and what it has caused over the there's even a suggestion again in their local newspaper showing a map of what the new province of Alberta map would look like with northeastern British Columbia seceding. Yeah, it's that serious, and we did discuss as well extensively the report given on BNN, Bloomberg, New York, Vivian Krause, the researcher, how it's U.S. charities that are supported or funded by large corporations, very wealthy people, that are funding the anti-pipeline campaign here in British Columbia, and she has traced $40 million already. And that's shocking because even Kinder Morgan in Area H, the regional district of Fraser-Fort George, from the Alberta border to Alberta, their annual property tax to the regional district of Fraser-Fort George is just under $2.5 million a year. That's their property tax. And if anything, if it goes through, it'll be over $4 million a year. And no one seems to be too concerned about if everything shuts down, the property taxes will be raised for the residents in this area to compensate for that. And that's very, very serious. And so we spent a lot of time together and have written letters together. I have one that I'll show council after the meeting, just show you which organizations have signed a letter to Confidence Canada, to the Prime Minister, and copies to Premier Horgan and Premier Notley. And it's much more serious than what most people realize. Yes?
I believe we've all received that in our inboxes.
The Confidence in Canada letter? Okay, so I did, sorry. I'm glad that I sent it to you. Okay.
Thank you for that.
I forwarded it to Ms. Shepherd and asked her to copy councillors. And I was shocked that they also said that our Canadian oil, the only customer is the United States, and they get our oil at a 40% discount, and then they sell it to other countries at full price plus. So Canada is suffering in more ways than one with respect to that problem. So I spent a lot of time with the mayors from up there, and I do know that even the mayors along the Thompson Nicola Regional District, even Chair John Ranta from Cache Creek, that he too signed a letter, and all of the mayors did, Clearwater, etc. I can share a little more with the council a little later, but with respect to Councillor Salt's comments about communicating after a council meeting, the Regional District of Fraser Fort George just puts forward a highlights from their meeting, and then it gets emailed to all of the board members as well as to the press. So that could be a way of connecting or communicating what council has done. Okay? And in April, I had been invited last December to a speaking engagement at Winston's Breakfast at the Coast Inn of the North, which they have every Thursday, and our CAO, the regional district, calls it the Old Boys Club, but there's some young ones there too, and lots of ladies, all business. And so I invited Tommaso Oberti to join me, that I would share my time. I had an hour, and I shared about 20 minutes to half an hour with him. And he made a presentation, and it was very well done and very well received. So we did that, and let's see, I also had a teleconference call today. There were other meetings, but I'm not going to go into that at this time. With Claire Trevina, Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, regarding the bus service, and they are working with BC Transit to have highway coaches in all of northern British Columbia, and some service will be twice a week, but all municipalities, she said, would have at least once a week, and this is just the first phase while they're working on it. And we complimented her staff for all of the work and time that they have spent to provide this service. But at this time, she said no more than twice a week, and it is going all the way up to Fort Nelson. So we will get further information within the next week or so, because it's the first week in June that the bus service to the north will be terminated by Greyhound. Okay, so that to me is good news, even if it's just once a week at this time. Okay? I think, I have Columbia Basin Trust this week, board meetings, and we had a teleconference for the investment committee, CBT, just on Thursday morning. And I think that's it. Thank you. So motion to receive the council reports, please. Okay, Torgerson and Reimer, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Motion to receive the project file tracker, Blanchette and Torgerson. Are there any comments or discussions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. 15.1, public comments on items considered by council as part of the approved agenda. Any public comments? Yes.
Jamie from the Village of Valemount. In discussion of the Village of Valemount officers and employees bylaw, I'm hoping that what is not appearing is a toxic relationship with the staff, because I appreciate that a lot of work has been put into it, and that the work being recognized. And the second is on the insurance. I'm sure that with reviewing insurance, the past encounters with insurance companies will reveal whether the relationship has been very good, and that and might help formulate who that we would want to be involved with.
We, Mayor and Council, don't comment on the comments received, but I assure you that there is no animosity of any kind. That's totally inaccurate. Okay, notice to proceed to in camera. Recommendation that council proceed to an in-camera council meeting for consideration of 5 items per section 91A, C, G, and K of the community charter to discuss matters related to A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. 2 agenda items. C, labor relations of other employee relations. G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality. K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. Motions, please. Blanchette and Salt. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.